moving on.
Mm-hmm.
Keith Lee.
Look at the shirt.
Look at this. I got to flex on him. So.
God, you don't have to flex on them. You don't.
So Keith Lee, internet food critic, came to Oakland and San Francisco and left. Said there was too much crime and homelessness and the city needs to do something about it. The officials need to clean this up. It's not right.
It's not right.
And I kept seeing stuff about this, and I didn't stop to even, I didn't know what a Keith Lee was.
Yeah.
I got him confused with Murphy Lee.
Wow.
And I was like, why is the guy from Nelly's crew causing all this beef?
That's crazy.
About the guy from Nelly's crew. How did he get a TikTok channel?
Wow.
Shouldn't he be at work?
That's crazy. Oh my gosh. Murphy Lee. Haven't heard that name in years.
Why is one of the Saint lunatics even talking any shit that's noteworthy? Now we have beef with Mos Def and Nelly.
Yep.
Oh. But I didn't know anything about this Keith Lee character, Keith Murphy Lee, Stan Lee, and the only person calling Mos Def Yasin Bey is Mark Lamont.
Mark Lamont Hill. Black excellence himself.
When those two get together, it's like fucking the Avengers. It's like Captain America and fucking Falcon. It's like Luke Cage and Iron Fist. So Keith Lee goes to the Bay Area and he says these things about the Bay. He goes, the people seem nice, but everybody's homeless and it's a piece of shit. And I'm out of here. I'm like, dude, you were in Atlanta. Like, what are you talking about? You're from Detroit.
Right.
Have you been to Detroit?
True.
Have you been to where you're from? Are you from Detroit or Dearborn?
Ooh.
Because I've been to Detroit a few times. Frightening city. Good people. Keith Lee left sound like Donald Trump. They were very nice people. But they were a little homelessy, a little broke for my taste. I like the suburbs. So Keith Lee does this thing where he apparently eats food in his car and tells you if it's delicious or not. And when he goes to a restaurant, he sometimes can take this restaurant. They can make a lot of money after he comes there. People line up out the door because Keith Lee went to there. Keith Lee says, that he does not go inside the restaurants. Oh, no. He won't do it because he has social anxiety. To get ready for this show, I watched an interview with Keith. I watched a few interviews with Keith Lee, and I watched some of his channel. So he admittedly has no experience in food whatsoever. He said, I'm paraphrasing a little because I didn't write it down because I was in such shock when he said it that I had to call you, interrupt your day.
Yeah.
And wait for you to call me like 6 hours later because I was so angry. But basically, he was an MMA fighter,
Mm-hmm.
and don't know why didn't work out. I'm not saying he was bad at it. Apparently, he had a winning record. I think he said he was 9-5, 4-0 as an amateur. That's a very good record. And he said that he had to cut a lot of weight. And he said, as a fighter, you have to eat. As a human, you have to eat as well. But he felt that because he ate or didn't eat as a fighter, that he liked food, wanted to talk about food. And he talks about food, kind of. He talks about like chicken wing spots, taco spots. And he does it in a real Yelpy way. So after watching a fair amount of Keith Lee reviews and interviews, and I juxtapose that to Anthony Bourdain's trip to the Bay Area, where he did show the blight. And part of the theme of his trip to the Bay Area is this new tech crowd causing the Bay to lose its personality and charm. And part of that personality and charm that Bourdain liked as a New Yorker was the grit that he saw in cities like San Francisco and Oakland.
Interesting.
Keith Lee, I originally wrote this all out. Toussaint told me not to write it out. Say it. Keith Lee to me is like a black Forrest Gump that figured out how to monetize Yelp.
Ouch.
An affable charm. He gives you all the prerequisites to why you can't really judge him for the way he does the things he does, right? And then he tries to cover it all up with this almost passive-aggressive Christian humbleness. He said, when asked if he's a food critic, "No, I'm just a vessel." For God, that is. So Keith Lee says, "I'm just like everybody else. I pay for my food when I go to these restaurants, and I want to be treated like everybody else." So Keith Lee goes to Atlanta, a black city. He's from a black city. Detroit's pretty chocolatey. It's been chocolatey for some time now.
Yeah.
Chocolatey cities are all the same to a certain degree. To a certain degree, right?
Yeah.
To a certain degree. If I dropped you off in Atlanta, you might not know the streets, but you're like, "Oh, I'm in the chocolatey side of town. I can figure this out."
I can figure this out.
I drop you off in a certain part of Houston. You'd be like, "Hey, figure it out," right? I've been to Atlanta several times. I'm not from Atlanta. I don't even know if I have any like friends in Atlanta right now, but I enjoy Atlanta. It's a big city. It's a spread out city because it's in the South, but it's not metropolitan, in my opinion, like New York, Chicago, or even Houston. It's a southern city, which is this is its own thing for people watching the show that are from the South. You know what I'm talking about, right? So, and to say Atlanta is like to say Los Angeles. Are you really in LA? Are you in Inglewood?
Ooh.
You know, are you really in Atlanta? Are you in Dunwoody? Like, where are you?
Look at that. You're in Buckhead.
Right? No, really. Where are you? Ben
Right.
Burgess lived in Atlanta, but he didn't live in Atlanta. You know what I mean?
Right.
So he goes on a Sunday for brunch at some place that's popular for brunch. I don't know what they do at this brunch place. I don't know if it's literally a 5-star. It's definitely not like a Michelin level star place. He doesn't go to those places because he says, as a vessel, this is where his message gets really convoluted. And he was doing this interview on the Breakfast Club. And if you ever want to do a big national interview where no one's going to ask you a tough question, definitely go on the Breakfast Club. Oh, remember
Do
the
you
Larry
see what I
Elder?
mean
What'd you
about
say?
the quote unquote journalism?
Oh, horrible.
Horrible.
Horrible. So Keith Lee says, I'm just a vessel. I'm not a food critic. And then he says, but I understand marketing. And I know these places don't have the ability to reach the people that I can reach with my platform. I'm a marketing guy and I can help them. But I want to be treated like any other person. I want an authentic experience. I was like, you're kind of all over the place. He goes, if I go to these places, if I walk in, I'm going to leave with bags of free food. I was like, well, they would probably want you to try all the things.
Right.
So you can have a well-rounded critique. If you go to the cheesesteak place that might happen to sell a burger and you really like burgers, and you get a burger from the cheesesteak place and it's not all that hot, is that a fair review of the cheesesteak place?
Right.
So there's a reason why you try a lot of things. There's a reason why the chef goes, oh, you're here to review. Let me make you some of our specialties. And I'll make them in small quantities so you can try a lot of different things we do.
Mm-hmm.
What a novel concept.
Mm-hmm.
Keith Lee doesn't understand that because Keith Lee comes from the world of all. He's a younger person that grew up thinking reality television is real television. Because what do we call these shows on TV? We call there's reality television, which is scripted.
Right.
And then we call shows that aren't reality television scripted shows, as if there's a difference.
Facts.
So he's from this moment where sitting in your car and giving a Yelp review is a review of the food, but is it really a review of the food? That's a review that I could take and use. And he goes, I'm just a regular guy. Just treat me like I'm anyone else. Well, regular guys go to the restaurant like on a date or something or hang out with their friends and they sit down and eat. And that's part of the experience. That's why those people decorated it. That's why they put tables in a certain way. All that goes into the experience, Keith Lee. Right? He goes, well, the wait staff is a little nicer to me. All right, so you want to go there when they're really rude and busy? And Keith Lee goes, yeah, that's when I want to go there. And he does. He goes to Atlanta at the busiest time of day. And because he has social anxiety, and I'm using finger quotes because I don't really buy it, but whatever. I can't question the guy's social anxiety. He sends his family in, and they tell his family, we're too busy. His family comes back, and they go to just like a 2-hour wait or something like that. And then Keith Lee comes in, and they go, we'll get a table for you in 5 minutes. He goes, well, my family was just here, and they had to wait 2 hours. There's other people that have been waiting. And he tries to do this thing. Like he's like this man of the people. It's like, dude, if you were a man of the people and you really wanted to help out a business, do this kooky thing that food critics have been doing for some time now. Go when it's not busy. You know, when the wait staff isn't getting yelled at or stressed, when the cooks don't have tickets flying out of the fucking machine at them, when the dishwasher isn't, over his head in dishes.
Right.
Crazy concept.
Crazy.
And then sit down in there and eat the stuff. Learn a little bit about the city. Learn a little bit about the establishment itself. Where do these people come from? In watching the Anthony Bourdain thing, He went to places in Oakland. He went to old places that have been around forever. He went to some newer spots. You have some young people of color opening up some cool little fusion spots. All the while, he's talking to Bobby Seale because the food has a story.
Exactly.
These places have a story. I'd love being a douche and talking shit about certain cities, but that's not how I really feel about New York. I love New York. New York's a great city. There's parts of it that remind me of home, of the Bay Area. And
that's the highest compliment you could give New York, huh?
To me,
parts of it, home, a better place.
Walking with, who is it? It was Anders Lee, the only Lee that matters.
Jesus.
Anders Lee, me, you, Hannah Feldman, Ben Burgess, Cuba, friend of show, Andy William, and we're just walking all over Brooklyn looking for some fucking Chinese restaurant or something that doesn't exist that drunk ass Anders can't find.
Nope.
And then what did we end up doing? We went to some bodega at some godforsaken hour, and it was such a fun experience. Like, we had to do the order that way in the bodega and have them fuck up the order and eat outside with the rats. It's an experience. I've gotten to have these experiences all over the place. So many places I've been on tour, they're like, man, we're going to take you to this blah, blah, blah spot afterwards. And da-da-da-da-da. Even the Waffle Houses. There's a story in the Waffle Houses. When you ignore all of that to just give me some middle management quarterly review of a fucking chicken wing or a hot dog combo in your fucking car, why do I give a shit about what you have to say about anything? You are a Yelp review with no personality. I may not be a smart man, but I know what food is. Apparently. But seriously, what did Yelp do for restaurants? I worked at a restaurant that Yelp killed in San Francisco. Had a couple bad Yelp reviews. It was devastating.
Wow.
Yelp itself ended up having financial problems. Why does anyone give a shit about what Keith Lee has to say about anything? Keith Lee is part of influencer culture. He is a generic billboard. He is no more a food critic than I am a karate expert because I watch ninja movies.
You do watch a lot of ninja movies, though.
I do. And you know what? I can get my ass kicked.